Do the words triangle pose fill you with absolute dread? Don't worry, you're not alone. For most people, especially new students, Bikram's triangle pose is one of the most challenging postures in the whole series. It takes a tremendous amount of leg strength, upper body strength. We call it the perfect marriage of the heart and lungs, but it does get your heart rate up and you really have to focus on your breathing. So that is a lot going on. The good news is there is a way to get from hating the triangle to really loving the triangle. And it's really two things. The first is working on your good alignment. The second thing is maybe, especially beginning, do a little bit less of the posture at a time. So when you see people who are just doing the triangle pose effortlessly, breathing, having a good time with it, know that you'll get there, but it just might take a little bit of time. So today I'm going to talk about the 4 pitfalls of triangle pose. The 4 things you're doing that make it in the way of your alignment, may make the posture a little bit harder than it needs to be, and how to fix those things. So let's go. The first pitfall that can happen in the triangle is the size of your step. So it's really the first thing we do in the pose. We start with feet together, arms over your head, and you take a big step out to the right and bring your arms down by your side. Now, for a lot of people, this step tends to be a little too short. So when we turn the foot out to the side and bend your knee, you can see the knee is really going way forward of the toes, which puts a lot of stress on your ankle, a lot of stress on your knee, and it doesn't feel that great, it doesn't feel that stable. So I probably am not going to be able to hold on to this for the whole posture. What else tends to happen is, especially for real flexible people, is to take a really big step. And then when you bend your knee, you can see my knee is kind of behind my heel. So again, my ankle and my knee are both having to do a little bit more work. And again, I don't feel super stable with this gigantic step. So when you take your step, you want to make sure it's still a big step. Looking in the mirror, it's about your feet underneath your hands. And the way you'll really tell is when you start to bend your knee. What you want to see in the front mirror when you bend your knee is that your knee is stacked right over your ankle. That way your knee and ankle can work together, and it feels a lot more stable because the joints are helping each other out. So with this side step, I can really sit down low and I can hold myself here the whole time. The second pitfall we see in triangle pose is overloading your bending leg. So when I take my step out to the right and come down, what we see a lot of times is that people really put a lot of weight into their bending leg. And you can see I'm kind of a little bit leaning toward the bending leg. I'm really crunched here in my hip, and this back leg is kind of relaxed. It's not really doing a lot. I know I'm overloading my legs. It's really hard to stand up, and the only way I can stand back up is if I use my hands to help push me back up. So to fix this common pitfall, you really have to think about distributing the weight between your front leg and your back leg the same. So before you bend your knee, really think about this back leg straight. You're going to push your whole foot flat, lift up your thigh muscle, and squeeze in your hip. So when I sit down, my spine can stay really straight in the center, and I feel like I'm evenly distributing weight between both legs. This way I'm nice and open through the hip and not really getting crunched. And I can sit down lower and hold it for the whole time. The third pitfall I want to talk about starts to happen when we move the upper body. So remember, triangles are supposed to have straight lines, but what we tend to see some people do is to bring the elbow to the knee, they actually round the spine like a half moon pose. And you can see when I do this, I have one really short side of my waistline and one really long side of my waist. Right? I'm not getting my elbow to my knee, but I'm losing a little bit of length in my spine. So to fix this pitfall, think about both sides of your waistline staying nice and long. When you go to sit down, right, instead of bending at your waist, think about bending from your hip. So you're just moving your body, and now I'm nice and straight through both sides of my spine, not crunching, but really lifting, trying to create a straight line from the top of my head all the way back to my left foot, pressing down into the floor. And the fourth pitfall is trying to keep both of my hips low to the floor. What tends to happen when I go toward my right side is my left hip wants to lift up. So you can see now I got one hip way up in the air and the other hip down low, which is again creating a little bit of that crunch into my hip joint. So I'm going to try to just keep pushing that straight leg hip down. So that again, I have this nice straight line now from my armpit to my foot, instead of letting that hip lift up. It takes again a lot of leg strength through both legs, pulling your stomach in and stretching your arms apart, but working to get those nice straight lines throughout your triangle. So there you have it, our top 4 pitfalls that we see with the triangle pose. The good news is you can fix all of them. You may just take a little bit of time. So best bet, if you're struggling with the triangle, ask your teacher for some help. Even better, take a picture of your triangle or ask someone to take a picture of your triangle. And that way you'll really be able to see the good alignment. You'll see the lines in your body. You'll see what needs to maybe straighten out, what needs to step a little bit further, what needs to press down more into the floor to find that good alignment. If you have any questions about the triangle, always ask the teacher, ask at the front desk, or post below. Thanks.